Will this year's selling season ever come to an end? Hello and welcome to Clearance Rate, a full wrap of the nation's residential property market over the last week. And auction strength is continuing into May, with the combined capital city clearance rate coming in at 79%. Now that's the third highest on record and is great news for sellers. Volumes this week are back up after last Saturday's Anzac Day lull, giving the buyers plenty of options to choose from. We're also continuing to see the selling season extend well into the cooler months as a result of the record prices, especially in Sydney and Melbourne. Some suggest there won't be an official selling season this year, with the frenzy to push all the way through until September's spring market, which is when things traditionally start to heat up. In terms of the individual capital city clearance rates, there you can see, of course, they are doing pretty well as investors continue to jump on before, of course, that stabilisation of the market continues. Sydney at 87%, Melbourne 81%, Brisbane 49%, Adelaide and Perth also there doing okay. In terms of what we are seeing in the private house treaty, sellers continuing to opt for private treaties over auction. Huge numbers, 2,700 sales in Sydney, 2,849 in Melbourne. Those median prices, of course, continuing to push higher, which is good news for those selling. This week, Sydney also boasted apartment prices, which were at that price that we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks, $650,000 the median. So it's just holding there. It's not breaking through that level as yet, but Melbourne's prices $457,250 there. Again, look at the number, the volume of sales there going through for the last 7 days. Pretty solid. In terms of overall price direction this week, we're seeing Sydney just inch higher, Melbourne pulling back slightly, but we've seen a big rise there. Brisbane flat, Adelaide also inching slightly lower, and Perth as well, seeing that stabilisation as the mining boom cools off in the Western Australian state. Time now for our weekly sticky beak into what's sold. And remember that Point Piper mansion in Sydney, which a Chinese buyer snapped up illegally for $39 million last November? Well, it's finally been sold to an Australian buyer. It is understood the property has been purchased for more than $40 million. That's $1 million more than the original Chinese buyer paid for it. Not a bad 6-month profit for an illegal buy, if I do say so myself. Now, if you're not aware of what I'm talking about, the home, which was previously owned by Human Resources Queen Julia Ross, was bought by a Chinese billionaire in November last year. But under foreign investment laws, foreigners aren't able to buy established properties, only new ones. Treasurer Joe Hockey demanded the house be put back on the market and sold to a national within 90 days. And it has done that now for a massive price. You can see why. It was pretty gorgeous. And of course, for those who can afford a little bit more realistically this sort of property, we are focusing on this realistic loft. It's a Brunswick penthouse in Melbourne. It sold for almost $1.3 million. And of course, it's a new development there in the building. It was passed in at $1.23 million. And the successful couple actually travelled all the way from Hong Kong to snap it up in front of a crowd of over 50 onlookers. The agent says the price has set a whole new benchmark in the area for apartments, and has many locals worried. And to put the price rise into context, another apartment in the same building, which was famously used in the Channel 10 drama Offspring as Nina's apartment, sold for $1.01 million just 3 years ago. So that's almost $300K less. Well, hold on to your hats because the market isn't looking to slow down anytime soon. That is Clearance Rate for today. More again next week.